Welcome to the Never Say Never podcast, where we share the stories of extraordinary students who've overcome unique challenges. And it's our hope that sharing these stories can encourage you to do the same in your own struggles. I'm Noah Miller, and today I have Quinn Frese with me.
Good afternoon, everybody.
So why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and give us a little bit of a background about you and some of the ways you've touched people in your life.
Oh, first I want to say thank you so much, Noah, for having me on today. It's a true honor to be able to be on the show, and I really appreciate the outreach. And so, like Noah said, so my name is Quinn Frese. I am a first year here at Loras College, aka World's Best College. I am from Davenport, Iowa, so the Quad Cities. It's about 70 miles south here of Dubuque. Kind of a couple big things that really started these past couple of years for me is one thing is this weekend is the 2-year anniversary of Fridays with Frese. It's a Facebook/Instagram show that I do. It started as a school project back when I was junior year with COVID. My school president reached out and he asked if I could just make this one video to send out to the school just about positivity and hope, and then it turned into kind of like a project I would do for the school each week. And then kind of following the end of that online school year, it's something that I took on myself and just really continued during this during the summer, during the school year, and hence therefore calling it Fridays with Frese. I used to post them on Thursdays, but then when I kind of did it as my own thing, I really started putting it on Fridays and really started doing more of that, more of like celebrating the end of the week. So that's kind of how Fridays with Frese started. It originally was called Frese Fun Fridays, but then I think sometime last year I changed it into Fridays with Frese. And our motto is showcasing amazing people with special qualities since 2020. It's just about featuring people, there's so many incredible people that make this world great, and it's just as great to be able to showcase them, to really show their talents, to show their gifts, to show their blessings. And along with Fridays with Frese, this past November, I was kind of thinking, I was like, what can I do to supplement Fridays with Frese? I do this video series each Friday, but I was like, I want to do something that might outreach to some even more people. I kind of came up with the idea of the monthly Motivation Monday, and I post it usually the first Monday of each week, or first Monday of the month on email. I send out via email, and it's kind of just another way, I want to outreach to people. I'm all about just outreaching, getting to know others, and it's kind of been a good thing too, just not only practice in video skills, but also type in writing skills as well. So I believe I've had 5 editions of that come out. I started at the beginning of November of 2021, and we'll be posting the 6th edition coming this first Monday of April. So that's a little bit about kind of Fridays with Frese and monthly Motivation Monday.
Yeah, it's a wonderful little project.
Thank
I
you.
definitely went to the liberty to look through it a few weeks in advance and definitely liked everything I saw.
Oh, thank you.
And it was one of the major reasons we wanted to reach out to you to be on this program, because that project just matches up so well with the spirit that we're trying to create, with motivating people and encouraging them, and also showcasing how unique people have done that. And yeah, it was just a wonderful little project. And what I'm curious about as far as how it started, how did they approach you for that? What was the story of the beginning?
So I remember, it was the first week my junior year at high school. I went to Assumption High School in Davenport, and I remember it was that first Wednesday of the first week of online school, and I was in my kitchen making mac and cheese, and while I'm making this mac and cheese, I get this phone call, and it's 563, my area code number, so I just picked it up, and I was like, hello, and it was my school president, Mr. Andy Craig, and he was kind of talking to me about hey, I was wondering if you could help the school out with something. I had sent out an email. I used to also send out, I did some emails just kind of on the side that I would send to the, we had a small Assumption community, so it was easy just for people to send emails to one another. So I kind of did some emails like here and there, like, and I think I did one the very beginning of online school. I was like, hey, like, we're in this together, we're gonna do great. This is just kind of like a bump in the road we're facing, but we're gonna get through it. And then I believe I posted on that Monday, then I got that phone call on Wednesday. And it was originally just gonna be that one video. I was just gonna do like a 2 to 3 minute video about like, hey, like, just want to reach out to everybody. This is a tough time, but keep the faith. Know we're the Assumption family's together. And so I remember filming that first video in the basement of my office, in the basement of my house. And I submitted it. I sent it in to my president the next day, and it got posted on our school's social media platforms. He had reached out again. He was like, Quinn, would you be able to do this each week? I was like, absolutely. So I kind of varied. Like, I did like each week I would do like a little 2-3 minute segment, like somewhere different. Like I did it sometimes on my front porch. I did it in my living room. So just kind of like switch up the location, and then it would just kind of be like a little message. Like I think I had one where it was about, I think mid-April we found out we weren't going back to school. So it was about, seniors, we're so proud of you. We really appreciate everything you've done. We love you, and we're here for you. And then I think some other messages too. I did one at my mom has a hair salon in Davenport, and they had to be closed due to the lockdown. And they were just right about to open, I think mid-May. So I did one there when they were when my mom was getting ready to open, and just like, you know what, we got a lot of people going back to work. Let's stay strong. Let's support them. Let's really just be there for them during this time. So it kind of started out like that. And then I think I said earlier, I kind of moved into, like once we got out of that, like that's online Frese, I didn't like send it to the school anymore, but I just kind of rather, like I had made a Facebook at that time, and I had Instagram prior. So it was kind of stuff, but I just continued during the summer on my own. So that's a little bit about how Fries with Frese originally started. So if it wouldn't have been for Andy Craig, there would be no Fries with Frese today. So a huge thank you to Andy and the Assumption community for helping me get this the Fries with Frese started.
So after kind of like the first phase of it was done, where you didn't need to do it for school anymore, what made you want to keep doing it?
I really just liked, it was a really good platform just because I'm all about, positivity and motivation, and I felt there was like a really good outlet just to do this. And I had some people say too, like, oh, Quinn, like you should really continue this in the summer, you should keep it going. So I thought, you know what, like I think I might just have to. So I put out a post. I was like, hey, I'm gonna keep this going during the summer. And then, so I just kind of did what I did for when it was during school. Like I did like random places around my house. And then later that summer, I started bringing on like different guests to be interviewed. So it kind of gave like the show a little spin, which I think was really nice because, it's always fun to do it by yourself, but it's also really fun just too when you have like different people that come on the show and they really add their input and they really add their beliefs. And I remember the first time I had guests, there was three special guests, 2 of them that go here to Loris, and we were outside of, we sat outside my house and we did about a 5-minute video just talking about, I think we were talking about faith in the pandemic, just how do you see God during this time? And I think it was really cool because, the past 3 months, like everyone, like people had like kind of heard my view and like, here's what I kind of think. And I think it was definitely cool having other people come in and just really say like, oh, like this is kind of how I saw things in this lens, or this is kind of how I saw this image. So I definitely think moving forth into that interview, like really bringing people on the show really helped the Fridays with Frese to really take off the ground and really help us like come up with that motto of like showcasing amazing people with special qualities since 2020.
Yeah, and that's something that I definitely want to touch upon is just trying to keep that strength during a situation like the pandemic, to keep going, to keep having a drive. I've seen many, many people struggle with that. I mean, including myself even at times. It's not easy. These are some of the most unique circumstances we've been in. I mean, to an extent, it's still going on too. There's still a lot of transmission going on out there. So just the fact that even one person decided to go out and, hey, I'm going to make this little motivational video every week just to help people keep fighting. I mean, I think that's a great thing. I think a lot of people needed that, especially with mental health and the pandemic as well. It's massive how much of an impact it has. It's almost staggering. Like, I mean, in 2019 alone, this study said 19.86% of adults experienced a mental illness. And that's a pretty big chunk of the population, because that's equivalent to nearly 50 million Americans.
Absolutely.
And I'm pretty sure since then it's only risen. So the fact that there's people like you out there that are committed to trying to help with that the best they can, that is a wonderful thing. And I'm glad that you're doing it. And as far as the kinds of messages of motivation you've had in that program, what kinds of things have you said, or what do you usually have in them?
So usually with, kind of along with, on when I first created my Facebook page, in 2020 during lockdown, it's basically a place where I shared, Frese with, well, not Frese with Frese at that time, but just the weekly videos I would do for school. But it also came a place too where sometimes where I would just share a message, I would just type something out. And I remember, I think it was June of 2020, I put my first, I had never really come out about mental health in big settings before. I might have told a couple people oh yeah, I might have this or I have this, but I never really advocated or really talked about it. So I remember I was seeing a therapist, and they were really it helps you make, if you feel comfortable, I think it helps you really to feel real in everything. And I really like what they said, because I think it is so true. In life, we're all given these these battles, and sometimes we you never know what someone's facing. You can only know what you're facing. But I think we're all given these battles, and it's really just about finding ways to navigate, finding ways of how do you push through, how do you make the most of it. All right, maybe I've been given this challenge, but how can I let it not define me, and how can I use it to keep pushing me? How can I use it to keep me going and everything? And so after I met with the therapist, it was I had started reaching out to a couple of friends. I was hey, I'm kind of doing this more. I just really want to let you know about this, and I have this condition. I think I opened up about having OCD at the time, and maybe a little bit of anxiety, and so it's kind of say if I ever do this, or if I ever sound like this, never hesitate to let me know. But I think the big thing for me was not opening about OCD. I think the thing that really helped me to relate the most to people, the thing I'm the most proud of, is really opening about being on the autism spectrum. I did it last January of 2021, and I remember my family was quarantined because one of my family members had tested positive for the virus, and I was I need to do something. I would just want to do something. So I kind of was thinking about it, started typing and everything, lost motivation, came back to it later, and really just finished a post. And I showed it to my mom and my sister. I was I really want to post this. How can I be an impact in others' lives? And so I posted a post. It was just about me having autism, and just the support I've really appreciated, and about, trying to be more real with people, trying. And I think, like I said earlier, I think it really, in life, you have to be proud of who you are. You really have to be proud of your journey and just who you made you to be, because you're the only one of you on this earth. And if you're not proud of yourself, then you can't really live your life to the fullest. And I think that's really important too. And I think open it up, and then I've kind of I mentioned on my website too. I have a website that I made in a public relations class last semester, and I kind of said, you know what, I have autism. It's kind of who it is, who I am, and everything. And I think having those avenues really help you to connect with people. Like I think it's something I'm still working on with. How could I use this to connect? Like I believe autism is a beautiful thing. It's really so cool. Like it does come with its challenges, but I believe it really does push me too. So I think it's definitely like a cool opportunity just when you can use that to really push yourself to grow and to really connect. Like, you know what, this is kind of me. This is who I am, and I'm so excited to grow, and I'm so excited to really connect with you. And I think it just kind of goes along with that. Like, you just really have to be proud of who you are, and you have to love yourself for who you are, even if you may have some mental health challenges, even if you may have something that makes you different from others. You just really have to embrace who you are, because people are gonna love you if you're authentic and you're real. And if you make the most of your life, and if you make the most of your journey, then they're gonna really value you that much more. So what I really wanted to say is just like, be proud of yourself. Don't be afraid to open up, because people are gonna value you being real with them. And I understand, like, it could be hard. It is hard sometimes to open up. But I'm not gonna get too in depth with this, but I had a really bad mental health crisis going into my freshman year of high school. It was hard for me to open up to my parents, but I think if I didn't do it at that moment, I probably would not be sitting here right now. So I think it's really, you just have to really advocate, be proud of who you are, and really just love yourself, because disabilities can be one of the most, I'm not sure if I heard this as a quote, but I just want to say this, like, disabilities can be one of the most beautiful things, and just really embrace it and be proud of it.
Yeah, those are all huge points. I think a lot of people need to hear that, especially, I mean, now with a lot of mental health issues being on the rise, I mean, across the spectrum, whether it's autism, whether it's depression, anxiety, it's everywhere. The pandemic definitely hasn't helped, and people need to hear that people will accept them regardless of what they may or may not have. I definitely understand a lot of that, because I too am on the autism spectrum, and I also have suffered from some pretty serious anxiety and depression in the last 2 years, and I've had to go through similar challenges to be where I'm at. And I know when I was going through those things, I would have loved to hear somebody like you tell me that story and say, just to be able to say, hey, there's somebody else that went through that too, they get it, and they found a way to get through it just the way you did. I think that's an incredibly important thing for, I mean, everyone, not even just people that struggle with mental health, but anyone else too, like any problems. Being able to see that people aren't alone, I think, is one of the most important things.
Absolutely. And I kind of think along with yours, I think we're so much in an age where we're so worried. I think we're the stigma of, like, this is, if we tell people this, like, it's just gonna make them, think less of us, or they're not gonna like us because we have this condition, or they're not gonna want to be around us. And I want to really testify to that. Like, those thoughts are normal, but don't let them consume you. People are gonna love you. The right people in your life will love you for who you are. And if someone doesn't love you because you have something, they're not meant to be a true friend in your life. You will find I've found really great friends who I feel very fortunate and very honored to be able to have conversations with and everything, and just really talk about, this is me. And I've also found too that, like, you may not know, like, someone else might be feeling the same as you. Like, they might be thinking, I don't want to open up about this because I don't want to be looked at or judged this way. And kind of going along what Noah said, I think it's so important, like, you're never alone. I know that's easier said than done, but we're all in this together. And there are always like people out there that are there to help you. And don't be afraid to reach out for help. It's really, really, really one of the best things I've done in life. And it's really saved me. And I just really want to encourage, reach out for help if you need it. Trust me, people are going to be proud of you for reaching out. They're not going to look at you any differently. They're going to look at you and be like, wow, what a brave and what a courageous person for having the shoes and having the guts to really get out there and say, I'm struggling, I need help. So I really want to emphasize that to all of you, and that you are never alone. Keep fighting.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. Very well said. Because, yeah, you're never truly alone. I mean, especially, I think, for those of us with autism and those listening who might have autism, it can sometimes feel that way. I know when I grew up, I definitely felt very alone just in the school system and in social circles. I didn't really meet very many other people that had autism, and the community in my school wasn't particularly accepting of it. Not so much the teachers, they were all right, but just the students, they weren't always very kind about it. And that was a difficult thing to get through, but like Quinn said, I did find those people that did care, regardless of what was going on with me, and that helped immensely. But just the big thing too is just to know that we're not alone. I mean, in the US alone, it's saying about, well, not in the US alone, excuse me, that was a mistake. 1% of the world's population has autism. And that might not sound like a lot, but when you put that into actual numbers, that's 75 million. That's a lot of people. So even just with that, like, no, you're never alone in it. And being honest about it and reaching out to people is probably the best thing you can do. It's scary. It's not an easy thing to do. I've been there. I mean, even now, I'll be honest, I'm not always as brave about talking about that diagnosis as I could be. Quinn's honestly got me beat in that area. But I do try to do it to the best of my ability, because I think the more honest you are with people, the more connections you can make that will really help you grow. And I think that's a huge challenge to meet, but it's very doable.
Absolutely. I think it's, first I want to say, I'm really proud of you, Noah, for being able to really share your story on air today. I think it's, I think it definitely, it speaks character about you, and it speaks character about who you really are. And I know anyone watching this today is going to be really proud of you for all you've accomplished and all you've overcome. And I can relate to you, because there would be times when I was in, elementary through high school, I'd be like, I just feel like I don't fit in. Like, I feel like everyone else has these like good social cues, and they know how to engage with each other, but I'm like, how could I fit in? Like, I just feel like it's kind of, you just feel different. You feel like, what's different with me that I can't really fit in with others? And I really admire that you're so brave to really share your story about this. And I'm so happy that you found the true people that you feel can really just, you can be around and feel comfortable. And I want to say it's sometimes I have to tell myself, like, when is a good time to open up about this? It's not just somebody you're like, hi, I'm Quinn, I have autism, but it's just really about finding that right balance. Like, is it a good time in the conversation? Like, hey, like, I've just kind of been thinking about this, it's been on my mind, and I just want to say, I think it's really good that you noticed that, Noah. I think it just speaks to value of you, and like, you're so genuine and so authentic with like, I want these people who I feel fortunate with to really know this part of me. And I'm just going to kind of let and wait until it's the right timing. So I really want to acknowledge what you said. It's totally okay to be nervous. And there's times where I've been nervous about sharing stuff. Like, I've been nervous about sharing mental health. So I want you to know, kind of on our theme of, you're not alone. I just want to share, you're not alone either, my friend. Like, So I want to share, like, I'm in the same boat with that. So
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. I mean, that was one of the big reasons I wanted to have you on. As soon as I looked at that Wix website you made about the things you had gone through and our little email correspondence, I thought, he's been through some of the same things I have. Like, I got to have him on here. Like, it's just too good of an opportunity to pass up. I think just hearing those stories is huge, because I mean, even just hearing yours before I had you on inspired me a little bit to say, okay, well, if this guy can do it, then so can I. And sometimes it is as simple as that when you're struggling. It's just to see, okay, I'm not alone in this. Obviously, that might not work for everything. There's, like you mentioned, therapy and many other things that'll also help. But I think just hearing how people get through those difficult experiences goes a long way to making progress.
absolutely. I definitely think too. It's I remember, I forget who said that. I think I had a Spanish teacher in high school who put this on a syllabus, like just how Rome wasn't built overnight. You're not going to learn the whole new language in just one night. And I think it really relates to, mental health. It's not like you're going to snap your fingers and be like, oh, like I'm completely cured, I'm completely healed. Rather, it's kind of along with, it's that building blocks. Like you could imagine like a stairway. And sometimes you're going to walk up the stairway, sometimes you might trip and you might fall back a couple steps. But you just get back up and you really keep pushing yourself. I think that's kind of what mental health can be looked at too. Like, there's tools like maybe at the bottom of the stairs, you're like, all right, I'm going to reach out, I'm going to ask for help. And you kind of start walking up the stairs to your recovery. You stop, there's therapy, you pick up at one of the stairs. And then maybe you go on, you're like, oh, this other treatment I think would be really beneficial too. And you eventually keep reaching the stairs, and you keep reaching until the top. At the top of mental health is like, you may have a mental health condition for the rest of your life, but it's really cool because you're able to really find out how you can live with it and how you could really use it to continue to empower yourself and continue to push yourself. And so I definitely think that's really cool about mental health. Like, and I had a therapist tell me this once, like, you have a toolbox. Like, if you ever like building something in a one-shop class, and you open your toolbox because you need to make like a birdhouse, and I got my plier, I got my drill, I got my hammer, I got my nails. You can kind of look at it as like in mental health, like, oh, like here's my toolbox. What do I do if I'm not feeling the best? I got my counselor. I have this close teacher who I trust very much. I got these couple of friends who I feel really close with and who really get me. I got my parents, I got my siblings, I got my family. And I think it's really important that we notice that too in the mental health community. It's just like, we have so many different tools that we can use. And just sometimes it's all about like applying them, like when's the best time to use this tool and when's the best time to use that tool. So I definitely think too with like mental health, it's a really cool because you get to build up like, your toolbox. So you really get to work up the stairs. And I remember, my mom would always tell me like, you're one day closer to feeling better. You're one day closer. And I think that's so true. Like each day, you're one day closer to reaching that top of the staircase. And I just really want to say like, don't turn around. We're all gonna fall, but we as humans have the ability to get back up and move up on those staircase and move up on the stairwell. And keep going, because you're going to reach the top and it's going to be the best feeling. I just really want to give that to you all today.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. That is enormous in how much impact that can have if you just keep going regardless of how hard it gets. Because I can tell you from experience, no matter how bad it gets, if you keep moving forward, you will make improvements. Absolutely. And just finding the tools in your toolkit, and just patience is another thing. Patience is huge, which is hard when you're struggling. I know that. But patience is incredibly important, because like Quinn said, it does not happen overnight. There's steps you have to take. like with my journey, I mean, we're talking like a year and a half or so journey that I've had so far since having more significant mental health challenges with depression. I mean, there were points a year ago where I basically felt nothing, like just completely blank, didn't know why I was here, didn't know what I was doing, and didn't really know what I was going to do. And to this day, it's hard for me to say exactly what it was inside of me that said, well, no, I have to keep trying anyway. But I did. And just every day, just keep trying to maintain, look for tools in your toolkit, whether it's just a movie you might like or going out with somebody, like just to talk, seeing therapists, whatever it is, like just keep doing those little things, and over time it does make a difference. Because I did notice, like about, let's say 8 months in, after the first, like, just little pieces of myself started coming back. I started feeling things that I wasn't sure if I was going to again. And it just goes to show that no matter how bad it gets, if you don't give up, it will improve. It's not going to be all immediate, and you might not get everything you want right away, but it will improve, and it'll be better than where you were a month ago, 8 months ago, whatever it may be. And like the other huge thing that somebody told me once, a therapist, but then also my parents, is that recovery is not a linear path. You can step forward, you can step backward. It's kind of like I don't want to say spiral, but it's just not a straight path. Because I mean, over the past 2 years, I mean, I've had plenty of moments where I've fallen back a few steps and become more depressed or more anxious and have to build my way back up. So when you stumble a little bit, don't ever feel like, well, okay, this is the end, or I've failed. That's never true. Regardless of how bad you fall, you can always get back up if you just keep pushing yourself to do it, which is hard. But if you have a good support group, it's absolutely doable. I mean, I had friends and family, and like we said earlier, reaching out to people when you're going through that is so key, because having that support group can help immensely. So that's one of the biggest recommendations I would make to anyone, regardless of what it is you're struggling with. As scary as it can be, don't be afraid to tell people what's going on, because there will always be at least one person that's going to want to help you.
Absolutely. I think, Noah, too, I want to say I really respect and I commend you for really just having that ability to, although you said you're in such a low place, you kept fighting and you kept pushing forward, and you really showed that you do care, and you're like, you know what, I am gonna get better. And it's so true. Like, you could look back at yourself in a month and be like, oh my gosh, like last month I was here, but look at where I'm now. And kind of you look at those little milestones and you just really keep building up from that. And I so agree with, we do have like setbacks, everything. I remember junior year, like I tried to do medication, did not work, and then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try no medication. That was a complete failure too. And I learned from there, like, although that was a pushback, it was like, it helped me to see, like, you know what, here's what I can do going forward. And how can I really take this and apply it to the becoming, growing as a person. And so I definitely think it's, I so agree with what you said. No, I think it's all about really just accepting that you will fall. We all fall as humans. We all fall on our faces, on our knees. But what do? We get back up because we really want to keep going. And I believe the true warriors out there keep going. It is so hard to like say, you know what, I'm done. I want to fail. Or not I want to fail, I have failed. I've had that in my life too. And it's kind of, you just get that really bad depressive feeling. It's just like, what do I do? But I think it really shows, I think it really shows character, and I really believe in your story, Noah, what you're saying, it really shows your strength. And from the short time I've known you, I could just see how strong and courageous of a person you are to really keep getting back up and to really overcoming your obstacles. And I really just want to emphasize, along what was Noah saying, accept the fallbacks. We're not perfect, but it's just all a part about living. It's all a part about growing. And please trust me, if you step back, you will get back forward. I can promise you that. Keep going out there.
That is absolutely true. 100%. I have been able to look in my past and see that like every single time I had a mental health setback, I was always able to get to some kind of better place a little bit afterwards. And that is a difficult thing to deal with, and just having that patience to get through that, because especially if you're someone, like in my case, where I've been dealing with these kinds of things for almost 2 years now, it can be difficult to keep up that patience of, okay, well, when is this going to change? How many setbacks am I going to have? I've had so many moments where I'm like, gosh, I'm just so tired physically and mentally and spiritually, like, when will this end? But I've found that not giving in to that, you end up getting a lot more positive experiences than if you hadn't have, even if it hurts and even if it's difficult. Like, I can look back and think of all the little moments with friends, having fun with friends and family, or being able to enjoy either a game or a movie that I used to not because of how depressed I was. Even if it's little things, you can stand there and say, if I hadn't pushed myself, I wouldn't have had that one positive moment. And the more you keep doing that, I think you can see how worth it is to keep fighting, because there's so many little bright moments you can get out of just continuing to be a warrior and just fight through it, because it is a hard battle, but it is absolutely worth it.
Absolutely. And I so agree. I think it's, I really like what you said, Noah, about, you looking back on like the times that you really value. And I definitely think that's really important to do. Like, if you're having one of those down days, just really think back about, when was I remember this time I was with friends and I was really happy with this, or I did this with family and this really brought me joy. Or I know for me, kind of sometimes I do, is music really helps. Like, I love putting in my earphones and I love just playing some music, and just, it kind of really, it just kind of substitutes your mind, gets you away from what you're facing, and just, it really just helps you to calm down a little bit. And another big thing too is like, just accepting that, like, we all have bad days, and we're all have days that are going to be good, and then some days where they're not going to be as good. But I think it's really important, like, overall, like what Noah was saying, think back to the good times. When were the times you were really happy, and when were the times that you really felt joy? I know I've thought back to like times, or like envision myself in a happy place when I'm sad, and that really helps me. So I really want to encourage, along what Noah says, think back to that happy time. When were you happiest, and when did you get the most joy out of something?
Exactly. And one thing I would like to ask about is, when it comes to your own personal challenges with mental health, with autism, what were the ways that you overcame those challenges? What kept you going through all of that?
So definitely a big thing that's kept me going is being an advocate for it, like really speaking out, like when getting therapy and getting, talking to friends, like, and I would really just say, like, finding something that makes me happy. Like, I love being around people. I love the joy people bring. I love the authenticity people bring, and I really enjoy. I think that really keeps me going. And like sometimes you look at something like that, and that kind of like it overrides what you're facing. It just really helps you to really live in the moment. And I think that's another really big thing too, is about, because I deal with this in my life too, where like sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so consumed, I can't enjoy the moment. And I definitely think, really finding that joy, really talking with friends. And I want to say to everybody, do not be afraid to talk with people. I tell friends this, like I'm like, people aren't going to be mad, or people aren't going to be ashamed for you reaching out. If they are your true friends, they're really going to want to listen. They're really going to want to help you. And I think it's at a right time, it's a really beautiful thing to do in a friendship, because I've also found when I've shared in friendships of my own, that people have opened up to me about what they've been going on in their life and what kind of their struggles are. And I think it all looks about, you look at it as it's just a good opportunity just to really have those real intentional friendships. And definitely, so talking with friends, or I remember there's a couple of weeks ago, I was talking with, I just had a talk with a really good friend, and we didn't really talk about I didn't really talk about anything on my mind, but just conversation really lifted me up. I look back at a couple of weeks ago, I had a great dinner with a couple of friends, followed by a great time getting some ice cream at Culver's with a couple of friends. And I didn't really talk about, here's kind of what I've been facing. But just the interaction, just the joy, and just being around them, it really just lifts your spirits. I think definitely the big thing for me is people. People keep me going. People keep pushing me. And it's what can I do to be better? What can I do to grow as a person? And I think it's just the interactions provided by different people that really keep pushing you forward.
Would you say Fridays with Frese has helped you on that journey?
Absolutely. I think I look at Fridays with Frese, especially now doing it here at Loris, is I think it's a good opportunity to get to know people. And it's cool because you get I've had a wide variety of people. I've had our Amazing Focus missionaries, which is our Fellowship of Catholic University students. So those who help with faith and people grow in faith formation. I've had different friends. I've had, and then back home, I've had some family. I've had some family friends, and just really having that chance just to really be there with people and really just talk with them and interview them. I think it's something that's really helped me grow in confidence, because I really do appreciate when people say oh, who's going to be in Fridays with Frese this week, or I'm looking forward to watching your new episode. And it's kind of a really good confidence builder, because you're oh my gosh, I am valued, and I have people who really are supporting me in this journey. So I think it's really cool that when people are like that, and when they reach out, they're I can't wait to watch your new Friday episode. So I definitely do think Fridays with Frese has been a big part of that, and it's really helped me to connect with people as well, having people on and really getting to know people through that manner. And I just think it's definitely been a big part in my journey and everything.
How have you noticed Fridays with Frese touching other people's lives?
I guess with Fridays with Frese, a lot of episodes I try to do this, I end off the video with a little say if you don't know my friend so and so, please take the chance if you ever do. And I really want that time for people to really be valued, and I want them to leave the filming and feel I am somebody special. I am somebody unique. And I think that's what really helps me keep going in life. I tell people the best thing is when you go to bed at night knowing you can help somebody feel loved and feel valued, because honestly, that helps me really feel good if I could do that. And I always love it makes it so much fun and so easy just when the guests just really, like, all the guests I've had have really brought such incredible light and just such incredible stories and passion to the show. I really do believe that you have a guest like that on the show really helped me keep pushing the motto of like showcasing those amazing people with special qualities since 2020 and really just growing in community, growing in friendship with them. And I definitely like, I also want people to look at it too as like a good place to get away and watch like, this is this really cool person. Like I always tell people like, I'm not the star, you're the star. I'm just the Quinn interviewer. I always use Quinn in a lot of like puns and everything, so I'm the Quinn interviewer. But I really just want to tell people it's all about you. I want you to talk about what you want to talk about. I would be more than happy to interview on anything. I really wanted it to a place where people could feel loved and valued. So I guess that's really what I want people to get out of the whole Fridays with Frese.
And I'm very glad you do that. I think that's a wonderful thing for people to be able to see. Like, I can't overstate how important it is for people to see other people either overcoming challenges they faced or just seeing people just be them genuine selves. Like, I think that helps a lot of people see their own worth. So that's a great thing that you do.
Thank you.
Now, another thing I'm curious about, as far as school and college goes, along with some of the struggles you've faced, what was that like?
So I guess like kind of with like in school it gets like it can get tricky sometimes because like it gets a little hard to focus or it gets you sometimes you're drained or you're not motivated and I get hard on myself. It's like Quinn, like you should be doing this for other people. And I just I waste. It's just like I don't get what I want to get done and I'm like I just kind of feel like like I'm not doing what I should be. And I guess like kind of goes along with school too. Like sometimes it can be hard to sit down and really be like, all right, let's get this done. Let's get this done. Or if like, my phone's like, oh, I'm waiting for a text from someone like about something, it kind of goes along with that too about, just trying to focus, trying to zone in. And I guess like too, like, there's kind of been, there's been moments where I felt, great about that, but there's also been moments where I felt like just drained and cruddy about them. And I think it's just all a part of like, human nature too, is I think we all feel that as humans, just where, sometimes you feel unmotivated or you feel you don't want to do anything. And I think I had a friend of mine tell me like, sometimes you need to give yourself time too. You need the rest because I think that really is important. Even like, you can look at it as a mental health or in a school or college or just any atmosphere. If you're giving yourself rest, that really it helps you to keep going. Like sometimes I just lay down in my room for 20 minutes. I set a timer for 20 minutes and just lie in my bed and just either pray or just sit silently or lay down silently. And I think it's definitely a nice bonus. Really helps me to keep energized, keep going. So I really want to encourage that to like make sure you're taking time for yourself. Whether you're dealing with a mental health or something physical, like a physical health condition or something, or just anyone in general. Make sure you're taking that time just to really rest and to take care of yourself, because I can guarantee you that it will really help you keep going and keep pushing for who you are and what you stand for.
Yeah, that balance is key. I've definitely found that out in my own college career. It's being able to say, okay, this much time can be spent on classwork, and then a certain amount of time also needs to be spent on just some kind of rest. As someone who's done the extreme of, well, I'm just going to work around the clock, I found out that doesn't work out. You get burnout really bad. It gets like you're just fried, and then you can't get anything done. So balance is definitely a huge one. gotta have balance. And I think now, more than any time, I think it's important to give students some encouragement and to help them get through stuff, because with the pandemic alone and everything else that's going on right now, there's been a lot of pressure on students. I mean, I've got this survey up from a Pollfish, and they said students closer to graduating, there's 60.8% of them have increased anxiety. And then 54% of them have increased feelings of loneliness. And then depression was up by 59.8%. And that's a lot of the student body, if you think about it. And that's just this past year here. This was a study done in 2020, pretty recent. Those are big numbers. And I think because of that, it is so important to try to give people hope, especially students, because the pandemic just puts so much stress on people, whether it's being online or just dealing with the different class environment with masks and everything else. It is hard. You wouldn't think it would be as hard as it is looking at it from the outside in, but it really is. I mean, even just from my experience, like, I had a hell of a time because I'm high risk because I have asthma. So the entire year the pandemic kicked off, I was online completely. So that was a whole year of my college experience just from my bedroom. And it was incredibly difficult. And this might just be my own personality, but I really struggled to stay engaged when everything was just through a laptop screen. Just something about it for me personally was incredibly difficult, and I know I'm not alone in that. Even just in my own classes, I noticed people really struggling to stay engaged in that format. Because when you're taken out of the environment where you can collaborate with people and bounce ideas off of other students, and you're just kind of sitting there, it is a lot harder. I think students today face a lot of hardships in that, and I think they need as much help as they can get. I know things have improved a bit now since that year when it started, but I mean, it's still incredibly prevalent. It's still everywhere. And I know for me personally, getting through those challenges, I know what helped is kind of similar to my mental health challenges, just finding ways to force myself to go through it anyway. To get to that end result was massive. And even though it wasn't in person, just still reaching out to friends, that also helped. Just having that release at the end of the day of doing something with friends always helped, even though for me it was usually through a Zoom call or just like a phone call with them because I couldn't actually go see them, but it still helped. I think those things are huge.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. About like I remember when COVID first hit, my school all went online, and I'm very thankful that they put in the effort to do what they did, keeping us, making sure all our classes all the coursework was delivered to us via online, teachers available via Zoom. But I so agree. I felt myself a couple of weeks before the school year ended, I was like, I'm just ready for this to be done. This isn't like what actually in-person school, or what school should be like, that in-person value I feel is, I know for me personally, it's very, very beneficial just to be around people and to be able to see people's smiles and see people, talk with people in the hall, high-five people. And while I so agree, Zoom and FaceTime and phone calls, and they're definitely like, so good. I'm very, very thankful that we had them when we did go into lockdown. But I think it's definitely, kind of going along what you're saying about the engagement, Noah, very important too, just with it's not the same. It is kind of a substitute, but it's not, the same for what interaction should actually be like. So I so do agree, like it was rough for me too, because I'm like, school, like I just feel fried about it. I'm just ready to be done with it. And so I completely get that, like you kind of get like that mental checkout phrase, like, you know what, it's hard for me to learn on a laptop. I just really want to check out. And I think that's what a lot of us have felt too, especially in the duration of these 2 years, with a mix of in-person and online school.
Yeah, it's not easy. I can't lie about that, but I wouldn't say that there aren't any options to get through it. I mean, like the ones we just listed, there's always a way to get through it. And as far as your experience with it, what were the big things that kept you going through that?
I would just say, like, seeing, like, although it was different, like seeing friends on, FaceTime, and I think it was, or a phone call, like I definitely think it was beneficial because I had done some phone calls here and there, but it wasn't something I really did often, and it was kind of cool to see grow, because I went from like, maybe like a 2-minute phone call, and then I could go up to kind of work my way up to like maybe 5-minute phone call or a 7-minute phone call, and then you kind of just it's kind of like, walking up the stairs and just, watching, seeing growth and everything. So I definitely think that's what really kept me going, is like, oh, like I can still connect with a lot of people, and even people who maybe I didn't really get to talk to so much at school. It was still so nice to just like talk with them on the phone or just see what they've been up to and everything. So I definitely think that having that technology and the option to Zoom or FaceTime or call others, I think was definitely like, very beneficial in keeping me going and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely challenging, but do you think your autism diagnosis was a factor in any of that? Did it make anything harder or even easier?
I definitely think it was hard at times, but I think it did push me. Like I remember, calling like on the phone. I'd be like, when it was like, buzzing before the person picked up, it's like, okay, I'm feeling a little nervous. I'm like, oh shoot, what if I sound like this on the phone? So it definitely like was those kind of like those initial worries. But I think there was still times I was doing better, that I had like a setback. I was like, oh, let's keep like, and it kind of sunk in everything, because like, oh, you're working so hard, and then you have a phone call where you feel like, oh shoot, I did not sound the best there. And I think it was definitely kind of what we were saying about, building up and everything, walking up the staircase. And there's definitely times during lockdown where I like fell back a couple and then walked right back, or continued walking up. And I think, so I do think autism like did challenge me in the fact, like, how can I be social and how can I really work on this, because I didn't really talk on the phone much or FaceTime. Like I didn't really do a lot of FaceTimes with friends before COVID started. So I think it was definitely a good push for me to like see like, how can I keep like doing this, and how can I keep working just to really get better at these social skills, to really converse with others. So I definitely think it was kind of like a blessing and a challenge at the same time. But I'm very glad for what it's done. It's just really helped me to push me like, all right, let's try this. We're going to be nervous, but God's going to be there. We're going to say a prayer. We're going to get through this. So.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now I realize there might be some people watching this that might not have a good idea of what autism is. Would you be able to give kind of an explanation of how autism works for those that might not be familiar?
Absolutely. So autism is, it is not like a disease. It just is, your brain is just wired a little differently, and you might, it's so cool because the autism spectrum is so broad. Like some of you watching this may have heard this analogy before, but if you know one person with autism, you only know one person with autism, because each case of autism is so different and so unique. And it's kind of like, it could have challenged you socially. Like I used to not be I used to be nonverbal. I think I was 2 when I started talking, so I had that delay, and it also can like maybe make it harder sometimes to do functions like by yourself. Like maybe it's be harder to drive, or maybe it could be harder to, go to school or go to just do like these daily functions. But I do think it's a really cool aspect to somebody because it helps you to appreciate yourself for your strengths, and it really helps you to look at yourself and be like, okay, maybe it might take me a little more time to accomplish this today than what it might take another person, but I'm really proud of myself because I pushed myself forward with this. So I definitely think it has such a great bonus too, just like you can keep using it and keep seeing it as just like that chance, like, you know what, this person might be on this part of the spectrum, this other person might be on this part of the spectrum, but together they can both use their autism to really help empower themselves, help really see what they could accomplish, they could get done. I think autism also could be a good celebratory with a lot of milestones. So I definitely think, if, like I said earlier, if you accomplish something, it's like you get to celebrate and you're happy, you rejoice. And I think it's definitely like that too, where you just really, you really just get to see your strengths, see what you've accomplished, and just keep walking up figure out your toolbox, keep walking up the stairs and finding those supports, finding the people who are really going to get me and who are really going to love me for my true authentic self. I think that's definitely a big thing about autism. It's such a broad range, so each case can't like specifically be like defined, but it could affect everyone differently, but it can also bless everyone differently too.
Yeah, that's all absolutely right. And I have to apologize to the audience a little bit. I realized that we got this far into discussion and I did not explain that yet. That is my bad. Since both of us have that diagnosis, it kind of just became easy to talk about, and I didn't realize, oh yeah, there might be some people that don't know that much about it. But yeah, and some of it can also be sensory things for some people, like either loud noises or bright lights can be a challenge to deal with. For me personally, it's usually more loud noises, just like startle me a little bit, kind of take me out of my zone. And for me personally, social skills are some of it. I've definitely had a lot of time to improve upon it and kind of, I don't want to say perfect, that sounds far too good, but refine my social skills to a point where I can manage it pretty well. But yeah, there are times where I miss some little social cues, or I'm very direct. That's one of my things, but that could also just be my natural personality, and my autism might just exacerbate that. Because even just when I feel comfortable, like I'm usually pretty direct in general with like what I want or what I'm trying to do. But I think sometimes other people that aren't on the spectrum can be a little thrown off by that kind of thing. Like just being so direct about pretty much any conversation topic. But I know for school it can be challenging. Like for me personally, like the social aspect was hard when I was younger because a lot of people didn't understand autism very well, and a lot of people would lump me into the, oh, you're in the R word category, like there's something wrong with you. And you just kind of get put into this little box, which was difficult. And I think there's a lot of stigma around students with autism, so that creates a challenge you got to overcome. I think in recent years there's more awareness and it's not as bad as it has been, but it's still definitely there. I've noticed it. I know when I was in middle school, nobody said it to me directly, but I remember hearing from homeroom teachers other than mine say, oh, I don't know if these kids are going to get anywhere. I don't know if it's worth teaching them. I don't know what's going to happen. And then the homeroom teacher that was good to me had like told me that in confidence later, like, I guess just so I knew what was going on. And I remember that hit me pretty hard when I first heard that. So that stigma is definitely out there, but I mean, you can work through it though. I mean, for anyone listening to this that has autism and wants to go for higher education, wants to succeed, I mean, the two of us are examples of it already. We're here, we're in college, and we're not, I think, at some huge disadvantage. We're not unable to understand coursework. You know, you can do it. There's no reason you can't. So when people try to tell you you can't do something, never listen to them, because that's just not true.
Absolutely.
You can, no matter what it is, even if it's something other than autism, if it's another mental health condition like anxiety, depression, whatever it is, you can always succeed no matter what it is. There's always ways to move ahead.
Absolutely. No, I so agree with you. And I first want to go back to what you're saying about how you're really able to recognize yourself with, you know, how your autism, you know, how it makes you up and everything. I think that's a really strong characteristic to have, because it shows your trueness and your openness to really understanding yourself. And I really gonna want to go along with what you said, like, to anyone watching this, if you have any mental disability or mental physical disability, just anything at all, you can still do stuff. You can really put your mind, and you can still, like anybody else. We might have to work a little bit harder, but we can accomplish anything. And don't ever let the stigma of you can't do it get to you, because you got this. You really do. Like, as Taylor Swift says, haters are gonna hate. And you just really gotta push past that and, like, you know what? Who cares what other people say? I'm doing this because I believe I can do this. And I know that if I put my hardest and work so hard, I can get there. So I really want to go off of what Noah said. Keep pushing forward. Don't give up. Your journey is just beginning.
It's absolutely true. That's probably the biggest piece of advice we could give, is just regardless of what it is you're facing, just don't quit, whether it's the negative part of you telling you to, or it's other people telling you to quit. It's just working on that skill of telling that voice no, and just saying, no, I'm gonna try it anyway. Because the more you do, the more you will succeed, and the better things will come out of it. I mean, like just with my story, you know, teachers saying, you know, are these kids gonna get anywhere? Is it worth it? And then here I am years later, going to Loras College, I'm about to graduate next semester, doing all of these things that people years ago told me I would have not have been able to do. It's just completely untrue. You can always find ways to succeed no matter what it is. Sure, it might look a little different than somebody else's version of success, but that doesn't make it any less valid. So for anyone with autism or with just any other either mental health condition or even just regular everyday struggles, if you're just having a tough time pushing through classes, anybody really, just keep pushing forward and keep finding ways to find your own success. Couldn't find the right way to put it into words. Don't try to model your success after somebody else's. Because I think one of the things that is easy to fall into is a lot of people tell you, okay, everything is done this certain way. Success is got this way. A lot of people will tell you that. But that's never actually true. There's always multiple ways to succeed or to get to the goal you're trying to get to. So never listen too much to people saying, well, you absolutely have this one way you have to do something, because that's not true. It's always good to listen to people's advice and take that, but then also make it your own. Work to your strengths in whatever struggles you're dealing with. don't just take somebody else's word for it. Always find your own ways to push through something.
Absolutely. Every step of the way. Do it what you feel is best in your heart. Others may tell you that you need to do this and you need to do that. But all honesty, do what's best in your heart. Do what you believe. Not what that person believes, not what that person believes, but what you believe in your heart. That will bring you the most happiest.
Well said. Absolutely true. Well, I believe that is all the time we have for today. And I just want to leave you with one last little nugget of info. Just never give up in whatever struggle you're going through, and always try to reach out to people that you believe can help you. Never say never. There's always a way to push through.
Absolutely.
Thank you all for listening. I appreciate it very much. Quinn, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Noah. It was a true honor today.
And on the next episode, we'll be talking about some of the Loras sports students and how they overcame both personal challenges and challenges in the pandemic in their sports careers.